I want to take a look at the total crypto market cap, because what we're seeing now is actually pretty similar to what we saw in the second half of September of 2021. And what's really interesting is, of course, back then there wasn't any like crazy conflict, but what's really interesting, guys, is that at the end of each quarter, basically you'll see something called the stock buyback blackout window. Kind of a mouthful there. But basically, a lot of the price action in stocks is driven by companies buying back their own stock, and they're not allowed to do that basically because of regulations at the end of each quarter, because they're going into earnings season and they can't kind of be seen as pumping up their stocks before earnings come in, if that makes any sense. And of course, the end of September was the end of Q3 back in 2021, and the result was that we saw pretty significant weakness in the markets, including in crypto. And if you actually look at the pattern here, just memorize this pattern for a second, because as you'll see, it's almost identical to what we're seeing right now, where, you know, at the beginning of the month you saw a nice rally, but then going into the middle and the second half of the month, as that blackout window came in, you saw crypto prices start to crash. They fell down actually by almost 20% during that period, which is pretty crazy. And then they saw this bounce at the end of September, and then at the beginning of October, they just started rallying, and they basically rally all the way up to the cycle top. Now, if we go all the way here to the current day, and by the way, we're on the daily chart. If we go now to the current day, we can see something very similar. Of course, we're now at the end of Q2, so similar idea. We're entering this stock buyback blackout window. And as you can see, like at the beginning of the month here in June, same thing. We saw a nice little rally, but now we're entering the second half of the month, and we're starting to see prices roll over. And we actually even have like a similar trend line, similar price action going on here, where you could see potentially the total crypto market cap drop here by, let's say, 5 or 10% in the next couple of days, see maybe a little bit of a bounce, and then fall even lower, just below 3 trillion, and then basically into the end of the month or at the beginning of July starts to recover. And again, it's not just because of the stock buyback blackout window, but also because of the possibility that we would see escalation, and then a resolution to that escalation potentially, or some kind of pause or ceasefire, you know, going into the end of the month or early next month. As they say, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme, and I do think it's rhyming in this case. And again, the key takeaway being is that we could see a drop in the next couple of weeks, but then going into the end of the month and at the beginning of July, starting to see basically what is a V-shaped recovery, because again, that's basically what we saw back here, that you can see, yes, there was a 20% drop over the course of 2 weeks, but then within like a week and a half, it was right back up to those levels before that dip, and it was just off to the all-time highs, off to the races. I think we're going to see the exact same thing in the coming weeks.